So hurricanes and virus, that's what we dealt with in 2020. It's time to start the crop, and the hurricanes are rolling in. So let's just kind of review the hurricane season. This will be mentally taxing, I'm sure, but this is something from the National Hurricane Center, a collage of the storms from Arthur to Iota. I didn't know I would learn so much about the Greek alphabet. Feel like I could go pledge a fraternity, but this is what we lived through, and boy, that's a bunch of storms. And this is just the worst case scenario you want to see on August 24th when you got two storms lined up. The storm on the left became Marco. At one time they had both of these crisscrossing southeast Louisiana. Marco ended up fizzling out at the mouth of the river, but you see Hurricane Laura way out in the Atlantic. But when they line up in that little slot going into Gulf, it just turns your stomach. So that track kept going west, west, and west, and it ended up going into Lake Charles, Louisiana. These were some of the wind impacts from Laura. Really, we don't show, Evangeline, Avoyelles, and Rapides. They probably felt the brunt of the storm because of the way that the storm hooked. But again, the Tesh, had some pretty strong winds. The Cane went down. Cane went down pretty good in Point Capee, the New Roads area, all the way to West Baton Rouge Parish, and a little bit lesser effects along Bayou Lafourche and lower Mississippi River. And let the games begin. They were just lying. It seemed like a thunderstorm would pop up in West Africa, and they were already giving it a name, and they were just coming one after the other. Tropical Depression number 22 became Hurricane Sally. Why do we mention Hurricane Sally? Since it came into Mobile Bay. That's Mobile Bay where you see the purple and white shading. Well, it made landfall on September 16th, and what were we trying to do on September 15th and 16th? We're trying to start our mills. And at one point, Hurricane Sally was slated to go over Louisiana. So with that threat, a mill can't really start and stop. It's hard to start and stop mills. Although we did get pretty good at it this year. So this caused a delay. We had delays from getting H-2B labor into the mills, and we had delays from the hurricanes coming in. You make it past the end of September, you feel like you're kind of finding your groove with the start of grinding, and then here comes Hurricane Delta, and just worst case scenario for Calcasieu and Cameron Parish. Those guys get a double whammy. Delta was a little bit bigger storm, and it hooked a little bit more to the northeast. The only good thing I can say about it is that the cane was already down from Laura, and the winds were from the same direction, and at least it didn't cause any more stalk breakage. You get through early October, now you got to get through late October, and there's Hurricane Zayden. National Hurricane Center had this really cool satellite loop. Nighttime shows the city lights, and here's another storm turning in the Gulf, major hurricane. This one did kind of made landshore in Terrebonne Parish and lower Lafourche, and really, from Thibodaux south and some of the lower river parishes took the brunt of it, and if their cane didn't go down from Laura or Delta, it certainly went down from Zeta. And here's the spaghetti map. Here's the collage, a graph by Dan Swenson. He made the really cool graphic. Well, I don't know if it's cool, but it's an interesting graphic. When Katrina went and flooded New Orleans, he showed kind of the time lapse of how New Orleans flooded. But here's the spaghetti model of what we went through in 2020. So just to sum it up, we had tropical activity from May 16th to November 18th. That's 187 days of a storm in either the Caribbean, the Gulf, or the Atlantic. And we only had 73 days where there was no activity. So, it always could have been worse. Like Jim said, nothing that you planned for, but you make do, you're flexible in your approach, and at the end of the day, we're sitting on a good crop. So, what are the effects? This is in the very north part of Point Capee Parish. A field of beautiful 299, and Jim talks about the knee-jerk reactions after a storm. You got people calling in, and if you're not familiar with sugarcane and you see this picture and you go, oh my goodness, that's a complete loss. But like Jim said, we got together as a group, Herman, Atticus, Wilson, folks from the league, myself, Blaine Viator, Ryan Viator, we got together. We went out and did our assessments. We wrote up a brief one-page summary. We've had hurricanes before. There's nothing that you want. There's nothing that helps the crop. But we are growing a sugarcane crop in Louisiana because it's a resilient crop. And really, we did have some places in the state that were dry. And this is just one paragraph from the summary. And we needed some rain for the existing crop and for some of the newly planted cane to germinate. And so, it wasn't always a detriment. To that extent, Hurricane Laura brought a benefit. A lot of shredding, as you would expect. The closer you were to the storm, the more shredding. 804 appeared to shred the worst. 299 really manifested itself with these dead leaves, but you cut the growing point back. The growing point was fine. Sometimes when the cane lodges, you tear roots. Each leaf has its own set of vascular bundles and roots. So, you may lose that leaf, but as new growth unfurls, that damage goes away. Again, the biggest effect, storm surge, along the coast in Vermilion Parish, some of these locations in St. Mary Parish. This is just the seed cane field from Troy's farm, and you really can't see the cane in the background, but it had a pretty good water line that was about 18 to 20 inches up into the canopy, and really and truly, that cane is fine. Not so much for the seed cane. I don't know how that one cane survived. This is just Peebles Plantation, Ricky Gonsalin, who he had 110 acres, I think, of newly planted cane that was just starting to come up. You could tell. Picture on the left, you can see the water line, and it takes a long time for water to sit to kill the grass like that, and that's the cane right behind it. The picture on the right is seed cane, and of course you're going to kill the seed cane, but you can't kill Bermuda grass. So consider crop insurance. I know a lot of growers took advantage of hurricane policies. There's also a replant policy, and people like Troy and Ricky had these replant policies, and from the interactions that I've had, they've paid off and served their purpose very well. So we need to encourage our growers to take advantage of that. So where does that leave us with some of the state statistics? You can see total tonnage for the state from 2015 to 2020. 16.8 might be a little high. We might be a little bit under that. We'll have a better idea next week when Harold sends his report out. But again, north of 16.5 million tons of cane. Just congratulations to the growers and the millers out there for doing an excellent job on a really big crop. Get paid for sugar. That's the bottom line. And this is, again, 96 pole sugar. If you see numbers from the American Sugarcane League and USDA, that'll be raw value, which will be a little bit higher than this, but should be a record amount of sugar that Louisiana has produced, somewhere north of 1.9 million tons. So that, with the price that Jim just mentioned, just couldn't be more thrilled for the folks in our industry. They work hard for it, and to see that kind of reward makes you feel good. We still have, again, cane to be processed, and this estimate on tons of cane per acre is at 36. That may be adjusted a little bit in the future. Not the record crop of 2018 in terms of tons per acre, but 36 tons of cane per acre is a really, really good crop. Sugar per ton, again, 96 poles sugar. Not the record of 2016 and 17. 16 and 17 were straight. Seems like it takes a dry grinding and a straight crop to, approach those records. 232 though is really good sugar recovery. Put it all together with sugar per acre, somewhere in the neighborhood of 83 to 8,400 pounds of sugar per acre. Again, with the large acres that we've had in 2020, that's just great news. Here's the variety survey. Here's the snapshot of what varieties kind of gave us this crop. 540 and 283 are grown on 12 and 10% of the state's acreage. 950 likely on its way out, although you got a few pockets here and there. But the main variety is still 299 on 59% of the state's acreage. You see the acreage of 804 increasing. I think a lot of people planted more 804, 615, and 201 last year, which should take some pressure off of 299. But the really astounding thing to me is just the continuing increase of older stubble, and that's what 299 brings to the table. 22.1% of our crop was in third and older stubble. That's just unbelievable. And really, the strength of this last year's crop was the stubble crops. We started off in old stubble and black land, and that's when you know you're going to have a good crop when you're in your upper 20s to low 30s, and that's just money in the bank. Jim always talks about bringing value to the industry, and when you're planting less cane in the crop cycle, you're planting less than 20% of your rotation. I know people planting 13, 14% of their rotation. That's less seed cane, that's more cane for the mill. You're trying to maximize sugar production on every acre of land. You really should put your sugar per acre on every acre and not just harvested acres, because the goal in any cane cycle is to maximize production over every acres. A lot of interest in the variety program and what's coming. A lot of varieties on this slide, and even when you get this many varieties in second stubble, that's good news. The varieties start off at the top from 540, 283, 299, all the way down to the last two at the bottom. The 214 series varieties, 267 and 885, will be eligible for release. And when you're looking at the numbers that you see on the bottom, it's like, okay, look like we have some things that are starting to compete with 299. And that is just great news. A lot of excitement about 885. It's a cross between 613 and 04 852. 852 pushes a lot of good material through, and 885 looks to fit the bill there. So we're still looking at trying to check some of the data. These numbers may not be final, but just wanted to give you a shot of what's coming. This is the part of the crop where I always ask Atticus why is third stubble important, because it's the money crop. Can't ask him right now through the computer, but you look at the yield of 299, and we talked about its performance in older stubble crops, and that tells you the story that you need to see about the 2020 crop. Just very high yields across a range of environments and very, very old stubble. And really, everything performed well, but certainly 299 heads and tails behind its counterparts. So I always show this slide. Now it's 53 years of sugar yields, and you always want to get that dot for that year above the line. So we can add the 2020 dot. It's above the trend line. So we're moving those yields in a positive direction. And I think the future looks bright. The 2021 crop is well on its way. A lot of us are already entertaining questions about the crop and, bush hogging, shredding. I think, that with the price gives folks a lot of optimism. So we started with a quote and we'll end with a quote. Progress always involves risk. It says you can't steal second base and keep your foot on first. And if you woke up in 2020, you were taking a risk. And if you woke up and were farming or operating a raw sugar factory or a refinery in 2020, you were taking a risk. And, you didn't always know what the end result of those decisions would be. But as we wind up the 2020 crop, again, my congratulations to all the growers. Sometimes you hit a road snag, right? I'm a big baseball fan, but if you can steal a base, it always puts you at an advantage. Sometimes you get caught, but at the end of the day, always an advantage to be had. So with that, that ends my presentation.